And that means we are live here on YouTube, Tackle Trading's halftime report. It is 5/3/2019. End of the first week of May. We've got the jobs report. The unemployment report always comes out the very first Friday of every month. Mark, it's been 50 years since the unemployment rate was this low. First off, how are you doing on a Friday fun day?
Has Trump mentioned that at all recently?
I'm guessing he's probably talked about it.
Hey, the economy's humming. He should. I'd brag about it all the time, too. It's smart.
I'm pretty sure he's drumming that up.
Yeah,
day in, day
smart.
out. I think he's got a couple pinned tweets that just stay at the top of his feed that talk about how great.
As well, he should. Hey, listen, it's great to be in America. I got my America shirt on today.
America.
Well, it is great to be in America. It's one of the strongest and best countries that you'll ever have a chance to live in. And I had a friend from Canada recently say this, Mark, and I loved what he said. He said to a group of American students, you guys have no excuses. You have every opportunity to get rich living in this country more than any place in the world, and we have economic freedom, we have political freedom, and we have a jobs rate at 3.6%. Pretty incredible. And we have a stock market moving up as well. All very, very interesting. 50 years ago, Mark, was 1969, the summer of love, Haight-Ashbury, the Grateful Dead. Did you ever tap into that kind of music?
I didn't, and I respect Deadheads, I respect their passion. It was never my thing, but boy, for those people that it is their thing, it brings them a lot of happiness.
It will bring you joy. It will make you chill out. It's a great one for a weekend in the garage when you're working on a project. Throw the Grateful Dead on. They've got a great Sirius XM channel as well. But let's talk markets here for a few minutes here. 29.45 on the S&P 500. Give me a read on this chart, Mark.
You got rising moving averages. You got an uptrend. You're coming into resistance. No trend goes up every day. Nice little pullback opportunity to moving averages, like pull back to the 5 weekly. We talked about this in the Traders Lounge this morning a little bit. Pull back to the 5 weekly, bounced like a champ. So just nice trending market. Those pullback opportunities, whenever they have occurred this year to weekly moving averages, have been insanely profitable for short-term traders.
Let's do a quick, dive into 2 or 3 different windows here, Cody. And I know Cody's running charts. Mark and I are doing analysis. I'm kind of running the play-by-play here. Give me a weekly chart, if you would, Cody, instead of a daily. So, Mark, when you've been watching your studies, we've got a triple top kind of developing here, not exactly at the same levels, but we hit a peak there early 2018, another peak there late in the year before the sell-off. Now we're hitting a new peak. Does that ascending trend line concern you at all?
Well, first of all, you got to put on a 5 EMA on that weekly chart if you want to be a champ. If you want to, those individuals that attend my traders lounges in the morning know that 5 EMA weekly is a powerful trending indicator. And so whenever you're approaching resistance, it is smart to always pause. It is smart to always be cautious. You will never, ever regret yourself in 1,000 decisions. If you respect resistance, you'll be like, yeah, okay, you're going to do all right. But what you have is a rising compression pattern going on here. Rising moving averages, holding a support on the weekly chart, resistance. I call this compression pattern a pinch type formation, where price gets pinched between a level of resistance and a level of support. And so you have that pinch formation forming. It's a very common situation. On the weekly chart, not so common because you don't hit these major levels of resistance every day. But that's what you have going on right now. Rising moving averages acting as support. You see how that 5 EMA has been acting as support the last couple of weeks, coming into a resistance area, forming a pinch. This is what's occurring right now.
We got to lead probably the day with Amazon. Amazon, one of the biggest companies in the world, is up 3% here today. Overnight, there was news out that Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett's company actually had purchased a stake on Amazon. Go back to a daily chart once you get this one up here as well, Cody. So, Mark, when you hear news like that a key institutional investor like Warren Buffett is purchasing something, the market is showing some strength here. What's your reaction?
Well, all you have to do is track Buffett's influence on Apple. Like if you look back historically, and if you've followed Apple at all in recent years, when Buffett has announced increased stake or initiation of a stake in Apple, the stock's lost its mind. For whatever reason, you could say the belief in Buffett, a random excuse to send the price up, but Buffett's activity on Apple has had a tremendously positive effect following those news headlines. And so knowing that, I wouldn't be surprised to see Amazon run here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see it either. I mean, you have a pivot point up here at the high point. It's got to break that number to be able to head for that high point at 2050. But man, very, very strong, very, very bullish. If you're long Amazon, you probably really, really like this morning. There's no doubt about it. Nice little move here and post earnings. So you've got a post earnings play here developing as well. Gilead Sciences, Cody, give me a look at this one. Yesterday after the bell, this company reported earnings, GILD, if you will, Cody.
Thank you. I was just about to jump on and ask you that. I was like, what's
the Guild. I like this name. You know, whenever you're looking at reversal type companies, Mark, you know, they had great earnings. Now they're approaching resistance. Talk about reversals a little bit. If we broke that pivot point, we'd be heading square into falling moving averages and resistance points. Do you like reversal patterns in general, or would you prefer just a good old fashioned trend?
Well, trends are easier to play. There's no doubt. The problem with this chart is that you just have so many layers of horizontal high points that were reached, like early 2019, you know, at about 70. Then you have another resistance zone late last year, about 73. And then you got another resistance low about 75. I like playing reversal patterns on stocks that I actually want to own when it's hitting that support level. So we see that the bears had a million opportunities at $62 or so. They had all kinds of opportunities to send the price lower. And they didn't. They failed. They had the opportunity. They had multiple opportunities, but they failed. When I see those type of situations on a stock that I actually want to own, then that pattern becomes very, very appealing. I try not to be the smartest guy in the room on when trends are going to reverse, unless I have really, really clear signals and beautiful opportunity. But for my long-term investing on companies I believe in, I love it when that occurs.
Another company in the news here today with earnings is Activision. Last night, actually, their revenues dropped. Their earnings were in line, but there was a lot of analysts that did not like this report. We've been talking about Activision for a while here. You know, it dropped like a rock there last quarter. We've been basing sideways. While the whole market has gone back up, Mark, Activision has not had any kind of performance here. What's your read on Blizzard Activision here?
They're a terrible company. You know, like they've stopped innovation. They have stopped innovation. When companies stop innovation and they just focus on their very core, I guess there's some safety in that, hey, they're, you know, not going to lose tons of money and maybe they'll turn. But if you're trading video games, it's all about new games. It is all about innovation. You know, video games are cyclical. It's like a trend. No video game really lasts forever, especially not as the hot thing. You're always having to find new things, and what they're doing as a company, I just haven't been a fan of all year. I haven't been a fan of all year. Now they do have core titles that will keep it in this, like at certain price, it becomes appealing. But like, call me old fashioned. I like it when people are making more revenue than they used to.
I like that too. I mean, revenue growth, earnings growth, improved profitability, those are all very, very important things. Their revenues are declining in a market where things have been pretty strong. I don't think it's a very good look for Activision either. First Solar, one of my favorite tradable instruments over the course of my 14-year career, Mark. It's always up and down and volatile and moving. FSLR, if you would hear, Cody. Post earnings, now we're breaking into a high point. You've got some upside here. Give me a read on that chart.
All right, let me pull up old First Solar, which has time for time. Well, if you look at First Solar, you had a nice breakout a month ago. You had a really nice signal around $55, a pretty significant level of resistance that went back. Now, this is different than Gilead. So same type of potential reversal opportunity, but you don't have all of those layers of resistance that you did. I mean, you look at that resistance level, it tracks back almost a year at about $55. Form then, retest, breakout. So you have a much different environment, an environment where, from a technical point, clear error, where you don't have those resistance areas, becomes much more appealing from a trading standpoint.
Cigna, CI, we talked about this one yesterday, guys. You know, this is one of the reasons why you show up to the halftime report and show up and run your accounts each and every day, Mark. You had post-earnings move here. Actually, very, very bearish pivot, engulfing candle. Follow through here today, down pretty heavy. These healthcare plan companies have been all under pressure. Cigna is no different. Their earnings did not come out very, very strong. What's your read here? Have we missed this trade if you're not in yet?
I'm looking back to see if there's any historical support levels. You don't really have anything. I mean, once again, you bounced your head for like the third time in a month off the weekly 9. That 9 EMA, pull up that weekly chart. It's almost like moving averages work or something. You notice how it keeps coming up to that weekly 9, bouncing as resistance, bouncing as resistance, bouncing as resistance. I mean, it's almost like you could trade that signal and make a philosophical bet that the 9 would hold. Now, you will occasionally be wrong, but eventually you will be. But boy, there's a lot of money to be made in between. But if you break support levels, you don't have anything for 30, 40 bucks. So there's a lot of room to the downside here.
And I'm on mute, but I'm coming off. Give me a look at Fleur, FLR here, heavy construction company. They had a terrible, terrible gap down. This is what we call a catastrophic gap here, Mark. Go back to the daily so we can see the gap there, Cody. Now, here's a basic question. You know, I know a lot of traders who are new, especially, and even veterans, they just avoid gaps. But there's a lot of veterans who love gaps. You know, when you have a red candle after a catastrophic gap below support, how do you approach a situation like this?
It's simple. Whenever you have a major gap, my advice is ignore everything that's freaking happening. It's freaking Friday. Freaking Friday. Ignore everything on the chart.
Fun day Friday.
No, it is freaking Friday because you freaking ignore everything that's ever happened on the chart. Your whole world exists in an intraday chart. Let's go to a 15-minute chart. A 15-minute chart, 13-minute chart, some shorter time frame that's occurred since that gap. And that becomes your world. That becomes your world. Identifying resistance and support areas, playing the breaks of those horizontal resistance and support areas, because you're in a volatility event. You're in a volatility event. Now, these charts, these catastrophic gaps, can produce amazing short-term trades both ways. But ignore everything that's happened focused on the intraday chart, or just be patient. If you're a day chart kind of guy, a day chart kind of gal, wait until that volatility ebbs out and you get a clear signal on the day chart.
Candlestick lesson coming up here, guys. By the way, welcome out to our halftime report. As always, this is my favorite part of my day in terms of coming in and joining our community daily as we go through our routine and look at charts and look at markets. If you're halftime crew, just put in hashtag Team Tackle. If you're new to our channel, click a subscribe button and an alert so you can come back and join us each and every day as we do this. And if there's a stock you want to look at today, put the symbol in the chat. You know, we're going to have some fun here today. Look at a lot of charts. Give me FLS if you would here, Cody. Now, Mark, this is the kind of candlestick that requires teaching, in my opinion. It's a beautiful one to learn from. FLS is flow serve, Cody. And gap out on strength and on volume, but then we've backfilled quite a bit. And if you look at the tail on this daily candlestick, this is an inverted hammer. Do you see, when you see a candle like that, do you have a strong concern?
Once again, what did I just say about gaps? I
mean,
go to a 15-minute chart. It's the nice thing about believing in this stuff is that you can consistently apply it chart after chart after chart. Whenever you have a volatility event, that's what occurs. Oftentimes, volatility.
Volatility.
Crazy price action. And that is particularly true. So in that first half hour, that first opening bell of trading, and look at what price did in that first half hour.
Mm-hmm.
It was all over the place. Volatility event in the most volatile time period of the day. What happened? What happened after that, though, Tim? Have things calmed down, started to calm down a little bit?
Oh, yeah, they backfilled. Now, here heading in the last 3 hours of trading, I wouldn't expect a lot of craziness between now and Monday. You never know, though. I mean, you have the earnings conference call that was this morning. The earnings number made the stock go up. I would actually, if I'm a day trader, be interested in an upside move if it breaks that intraday resistance at about 52.10.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't usually take on new day trades late on a Friday. You know, it's just over the course.
Everybody's lazy on a Friday.
That's right. Lazy Fridays, Friday fun day, freaking Friday. I like it all. We're going to have a lot of charts here. We're going to look at TRIP, Cody, if you would, TRIP, bring back the daily chart. I like this pattern and I like the potential here. We're already up 4.6% here on the day, but you're now pressing up against all of this congestion and all of these moving averages. And you've got a resistance right here, Mark. For me, in a market that's been strong, a $55 breakout maybe next week could, well, say la vie, there's earnings coming up next week.
I was just circling it. We got earnings right in front of us.
It's going to throw it off. Well, scratch that one. Earnings can do that to you. Give me a look at some of these oil companies. EOG coming off of a bottom here, Mark. We've had a lot of weakness in the oil providers, oil service companies. I know you do the commodity report. What's going on with these companies lately? Is it just the price of crude and volatility? What's your take?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's on oil stocks, you have two dogs wagging one tail.
Mm-hmm.
The oil stock is the tail. And you have both the equity and the oil markets serving as the dog. So you got a two dog, one tail situation. And so whenever oil has a hard stretch and when the equity markets aren't climbing, maybe trading a little sideways like you did this last week, then this situation, you know, you got those two dogs, one neutral, one bearish in the short term only. That's going to like impact the price of oil, oil stocks, individual oil companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Dow Jones Industrial moving.
It's so much easier just trading oil itself.
A lot of times, you know, but you have quite a bit of volatility and upside in some of those oil companies. One thing I like about oil companies from a long-term perspective is many of them pay a nice dividend.
Oh, that is the only, literally the only. I do not trade. I mean, if I'm going to trade an oil, why would I want to trade the tail when I can trade the dog?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to trade the dog 100 out of 100 times. Now, the one advantage individual oil companies have for longer term investors is that nice dividend, and that will keep them around.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to the rut here in just a minute. Let's talk Dow Jones Industrial Average here. And Chris Couch, always good to see you, my friend, in our chat. And Maria, and talking about the breakout on the rut. We'll get down to that one here in just a minute. YM contract here is kind of flat compared to the S&P. I actually got this rated a little bit lower. I was more bullish on this for many months in the first part of the year, but now we're kind of flattening out here. What's your read on the Dow, Mark?
I just saw Weight Watchers change their ticker symbol. Is that what happens when you're a terribly run company that does horrible things?
Wait, what's the new symbol?
That is far more interesting.
Wait, who just changed their ticker symbol?
Weight Watchers. I just saw a headline. WW.
I thought they had good earnings that I could have.
Well, they might have had good earnings, but
you've got gap fill.
Look at the chart pointing downward.
Well, you've got gap fill potential here, probably back up to about 2750, but that's been a terrible company. We've had that on so many bearish reports over the last year or so.
Oh, it's made our clients at Tackle Trading some coin.
And again, their good earnings is they didn't lose as much money as expected.
But here's the thing. I mean, go back to that chart. Has Weight Watchers been on any of our bearish reports in recent months? No. Because those signals haven't been there. Were they on that report numerous times along the way? Yes. They were.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the advantages because you as an individual trader, one of the biggest problems we have as individual trader is time management. Mm-hmm. We just don't have the time to go peruse and run 1 billion scans and go through 1,000 stock watch list. Nice thing about the bird dogs you have at Tackle Trading is that in our Friday weekly meeting, which we'll have this afternoon, The coaches bring all of their candidates. We debate, we look, we vote. It has to have a unanimous vote. It is a great benefit of being a pro member. And if you want to make money in 2019 on picks like Weight Watchers did last year, even at the start of the year, come sign up for a pro membership. Email me at Team of Tackle Trading, and I'll hook you up, and I'll get you access to the Tackle 25 if you do it today.
That's right.
So as part of your pro membership, I will also give you access, as long as you're a pro member, to the Tackle 25.
Oh,
I mean, scattering reports are amazing. Even I trade off of them, and I am very stubborn and have my own system.
You've got, I mean, first of all, it's just a lot of work being done for you. You're leveraging other people's time, and you're leveraging decades and decades of experience. It's a simple
thing. It's like
thing.
this donut. I don't got time to eat this donut individually.
That's
so
right.
I have to eat this donut while I'm multitasking doing the halftime report.
That's right. That's right. I love it. Back on the Dow, some of the Dow components here, Mark, we've talked about this. There's been so many strong stocks. AXP, we brought up the other day. We were in the halftime report. I brought this chart up, AXP, if you would here, Cody, and it is breaking into a high base and now into an all-time high here. Strength in credit card companies, very, very good looking company. Might not be a swing trade type. It might be more of a position trade type. What's your read on AXP?
High base breakout after a previous breakout. It don't get a whole lot prettier than that.
We stressed last week in the sectors that finances were looking like the best bullish trigger from its high base breakout, which we had, and then AXP now has formed its own within the sector that's doing well.
Yeah.
This is expected, in my opinion.
No, and once again, I think this was on the report 2 weeks ago on that breakout. Individuals that got in got a twofer. They got in on the breakout, high base, didn't give you a sell signal, breaking out of a high base after that. Beautiful pattern, beautiful opportunity. Another options report winner right there.
McDonald's, MCD, we brought this one up yesterday. In fact, here in the chat, guys, I said, okay, here's 3 or 4 charts. Which one do you like? And McDonald's was a beautiful bull pullback and then triggering here today, Cody. I like this one a lot. Cody, when you see a chart like that, how do you normally play that personally? Do you like long call, long stock, bull call, something complex? I mean, what do you do with something like that?
So for something like McDonald's, excuse me, what I would probably look to do is actually a couple of long calls on it. And then after it's moved a little bit, I'll sell majority. I'll sell another call against it. So I'll spread it out, but I'll still spread it out to where my risk graph is open on one side, because McDonald's, I don't think is going to slow down, but I like to, take when I get that swing high, go ahead and pull some money off, lock in profit. And actually, if I can make it a risk-free trade completely with an open-ended risk graph, that's the most beautiful situation I shoot for. So I'd probably do a couple long calls on this, and then probably spread them out, when I get up to about 205 or so.
The evil empire, Goldman Sachs, is approaching a breakout. Breakout, Frank, this is a good candidate for breakout reversal type situation here. 210 was old support, new resistance. Now, Mark, when those moving averages are there with a resistance point and everything, if you can clear out of that, that is clear confirmation. Do you get excited? Do you watch this kind of stuff? Do you prepare for it? Or do you just simply wait for the breakout and then react?
This is a beautiful chart. Let's just call it what it is. Go to weekly chart. You do have the only thing it has to clear for me is that 50 weekly. And you see then it looks like that's your turquoise line there. You see that 50 weekly is just a little bit overhead. And so you got some things that could potentially just stymie the action a little bit, but this is a really, really nice developing chart. Rising moving averages, pushing out of horizontal resistance as well. You just got this little bitty things to clear, and you got some room up to run. But it is a really, really nice developing pattern.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you've got some weakness in Exxon and Dow, DuPont, United Health, but nothing crazy on the Dow. Move on to the NASDAQ, if you would here, Cody. Let's keep working through the markets one step at a time. Technologies, the strongest of the market, quite frankly. I mean, this index is better than the other two in terms of performance this year. Mark, what's your read on this technically?
Pretty. I mean, what I really like about it is you have a clear horizontal area of resistance. Like sometimes resistance is a little choppy, not so much in the case here. You don't have any of these long wicks. You don't have pretty clean area of resistance. What acted as support yesterday?
The trend line and the moving average.
I mean, and so you bounce right off support as expected, because once again, as long as you're not over analyzing the news and trying to be the smartest guy or gal in the room, bet on that trend. Bet when those pullbacks occur that the trend will hold. Find opportunities. We spent the entire first 40 minutes of the lounge this morning on the Traders Lounge talking about, okay, if you philosophically bet on the trend holding, and that when you have these pullback in price opportunities, the only question then is, what are your specific rules on when to get in? How do you play that opportunity? And that's where your trading plan and your experience and your knowledge and education comes into play. I'm not going to outline all of those here. That's something I do for the pro members. But philosophically, you recognize the pattern, and then the specifics are, how do you play that pattern? How do you get in? What are the specific signals you look for? And we went over many of those in the Traders Lounge this morning.
Stop, entry, target, position, sizing. The step system is a part of what we do to help develop those kind of things. And every trader has to have rules. There's no doubt about it. You know, you can find a good entry point. How you execute on that entry point, I mean, that takes time, and you've got to build your skill set out there. No excuses. Tackle trading, team tackle members. I mean, we get out there. We're market assassins. We go after it and we trade with discipline. In the chat, I want you to type in trade with discipline. Trade with discipline. I think it's really, really important here. Give me a look at Microsoft here. We're going to go through some large cap ones. Then we will get to Micron as well. I love that idea there, Adam Stewart. Whenever Mark's here, we got to analyze Micron for sure. Microsoft had a backfill after their earnings, Mark. Gap fill, and now we've got a green candlestick here. Beautiful uptrend, very, very strong. We're going to rapid fire through a few of these. Apple Computer holding the gap, AAPL if you would, Cody. We're just going to look at all the top end ones here. Google is backfilling after their well, it wasn't a catastrophic gap. It was a big gap. But Google actually is coming back here. A break above 1,200 is tradable.
I disagree with that statement, actually. The reason I disagree is you're running into weekly moving averages. Like, the problem, it's gap strategies. Like, trading gaps is not an easy thing for new traders to do. They're very, very complex. Like how I trade. And once again, I only can teach how I trade. Like you teach how you trade, and I think the student's better off. And that's one of the great thing about tackle trading is how many coaches do we have? 8, 9 coaches that do various reports and live shows. And if they all teach how they trade, then you get a lot of insight from a lot of experience. The problem I have with gaps, like from a traditional standpoint, is you run into falling moving averages, whether they're weekly or daily. So unless you have specific gap experience, is it tradable? Sure. But with specific strategies that you might not be accustomed to.
Well, probably clearer chart then. I mean, this comes down to philosophy and then system as well. Google gap down would be a gap fill. Facebook would be a gap runner. So if Facebook breaks above 200 mark, in my opinion, that is tradable as well.
For almost any system.
Any system.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
When you have, I mean, that is there like any chance that doesn't make the options report this week?
It's got to be there. I mean, you've got a key psychological number. You've got a round number. It's a high base after a strong earnings in a market that's a juggernaut. I mean, come on. This stuff does not have to be hard, guys. The market should not be, super complex. So I love this chart.
I mean, there are some charts you look at that I don't care if you're Noah or Gino or Matt or Tim or me or Cody or Tyler or Frank or whoever. There's a lot of nuance in what we do on a lot of situations. We just talked about a little bit of that on gaps. There are some charts where everyone looks at it and like, yeah, that's a good opportunity, like across the board.
Yeah.
And those oftentimes make our reports.
Yeah. Give me a chart on Micron. Adam asked for a request here. Mark, you've got pegged as the Micron guy. Why is that? You love a lot of companies, but what?
My best trade last year was a trade on Micron. I made quite a bit of chunk of change on it. And all I did in the Traders Lounge was talk about Micron for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That was, but with trading, that was a million years ago. I mean, that's a messy chart.
Straddle. Here's the thing. I mean, look at that compression. It is not a stock that does nothing. Okay. I mean, it is in the middle, and you've got earnings.
Pull up the weekly chart.
A bi-directional trade makes sense.
Remember what I was talking about on Goldman Sachs, how that nasty 50 moving average was there. And sometimes you got to look what Micron's done the last month. What has been the resistance area? I don't care. I don't care what you're doing. I would debate this to the end of the time. What has acted as resistance on Micron the last month?
The moving averages.
The 50 weekly moving average. Yeah. It came up and immediately slapped down. So you have a compression pattern. You have a nice pattern developing. I call this a pinch, where you have some moving averages acting as support, a moving average acting as resistance. I don't mind your straddle call there, actually.
Earnings volatility.
Talk about that straddle call, because I don't mind that.
Well, I just traded it, so it was obvious to me. I mean, sometimes trades just fit your systems. I do Delta, Theta, and Vega all the time. I mean, in my portfolio, I'm willing to carry 10, 15, 20 trades. Not every trader has to do that. I don't like 40, 50. Some traders like Hero, Coach Hero, who's been on, a pretty good vacation the last few months, but Coach Hero does like 40 trades, 50 trades. I think that's too many for me personally, just because, it's hard to manage that many. But when I see a Vegas strategy that I can just set to a position size I'm comfortable with, and you just always trade small. I mean, with these type of trades, what your position size is. I've got earnings coming up in about 6 weeks. I know exactly what the volatility cycle will do. We've got a compression pattern, which means I can make money 2 ways. Okay.
Where is volatility here on all?
Bring that one up from the IB ring.
It was about this time last year that, let's see.
And there's my ding, ding, ding.
I was going to say, there's that sound we all love.
There's the fill. Yeah.
I am starting to like this trade more and more.
Look at the volatility in the basement. The options are cheap. You're in the middle, so you can make money 2 ways. And I want you to write this in the chat. Make money 2 ways, either from a price move or a volatility build. Okay. So price move or a volatility build. So if Micron breaks and runs, or if Micron takes it on the chin, you could make money, or just the volatility building can help you offset the theta decay.
What months are you doing?
Let's see. I just did 79 days. I think July.
Yeah.
We want to build this out. Look at
77.
Now this is Fun Friday.
This is Friday Fun Day.
This is where you show up and it's actually fun. See, you guys try to force Friday Fun Day. It's like every Friday is a fun day, just by default, whether we have fun or not. Now I'm having fun.
Making money is fun. Yeah, that's right.
I like this trade. Do
we want to build it down or no?
Yeah, go ahead, Cody.
Well,
43 strike, because the price is 42.96. So you're going to use the 43 call and put. And by the way, this falls in a family of systems that you could use, like the inverted fly, too many commissions, not enough money in it, in my opinion, for these long-term ones, or a debit condor, which is really good for the big price stocks. Nope, long straddle. We're buying the options here because the options are cheap, right? When the volatility is low, the options are cheap. Map it out, take a look at it. Obviously, this is not trading advice. It's just something I just did, right? So c'est la vie. I mean, you got to understand your systems. And by the way, you should never put a live trade on until you have tested something and know that you're good at it. I mean, that's just gambling. You don't do that, right? But for me, this fits my rules, fits my system. I know what it's doing. Mark, what do you think?
Okay, conceptually, I like it. Micron's a stock that can run. Micron can run in a couple different ways. Micron can run because something has happened. Well, it actually can run in 3 ways. Because there is some news on Micron itself. Because there is something in its semiconductor space. And then as a commodity type stock, very, very influenced by large moves in the market itself. So this compression pattern, you got a lot of potential catalysts. I like this setup. I just have to figure out how I want to play it. And that's what Tim was talking about, is like, well, I'm going to go do a straddle because Tim and Mark are doing a straddle. Well, what are your rules? I mean, there's so many nuances to the individual rules we do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's no shortcuts to get.
It's a pretty opportunity. I like it though.
C'est la vie. I like it. That's twice. And 3 times would be a charm. I'm going to hold one for the end of the day. Celgene here breaking into a new high as well. CELG earnings today before the market. Let's keep moving through some tech stocks here, Cody. High base breakout post earnings. It doesn't look like a big move, but quite frankly, that's your eyes doing tricks on you. That's a company that's gone from 56 to 96 in about 4 months here, Mark. Obviously volatility here. What's your read?
You got it's a nice break, run up to 105. The 200 weekly moving average, you got some room to run up. This is a nice reversal pattern. You're breaking multi-month resistance. You had resistance last fall. You had a high base type situation, not exactly high base, but consolidating base for the last month, corresponding exactly with that previous resistance level back in August.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking out of that, that's pretty. That's pretty.
Yeah, I agree with that
quite a bit, actually.
Okay, and let's move on to the Russell 2000 if we can. Is it a breakout?
Members in the chat are happy. When you were asking for stocks, it was like rut.
It's because all of you guys have your iron condor on, and you're all freaking out because it's breaking resistance.
Well, I'm not freaking out because I position size.
Talk the rut.
I'm not freaking out. I position my position size my trade correctly.
Listen, I did my one iron condor of the year. It was a success. So,
So you feel like you're ahead of the game on those?
Per year? Just one iron condor report per year?
You don't like...
I hate iron condors.
I was going to say, you don't like iron condors, but most of our traders love them. So what's your take on iron condors, Mark? Because I think it's an important thing to understand why some traders would choose to do something and other traders, even veteran traders, would say, I don't want to do it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is I don't teach what I don't do. And so I can talk glibly about how I hate them. I know what I wouldn't be doing is bearish spreads or neutral spreads when something's breaking out.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, placing an iron condor or a bear call or shorting the rut or buying a put, all of that seems, what are you doing? You're counter trading is what you're doing. I think that this is going to be a fake out. I mean, breakouts are strong signals. Now, we don't have confirmation. We're in the itty bitty, maybe potential stages of a breakout. The rut has certainly lagged behind every major market.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
I've been talking about the rut breaking 1600 for 2 months now.
But look at the amount of room it has to run.
Give me an intraday chart here. It's got tons of room up. And if the market melts up, you got 100, 150 points to the upside on the rut over a couple of month period if it did happen. Now, that being said, I mean, we're only 1.4% here today on a day where the entire market is very strong. Cody, back out to like a 30-minute, if you will, or maybe a 60-minute, something like that. Mark, where is the exact data for a breakout confirmation? Because different technicians would argue this. For me, if you're on a daily chart, you go down to the intraday to confirm it. Have we broken out if we stay above that location right there?
All right. All the time on the Traders Lounge, individuals are bringing out stocks that are breaking out. Mm-hmm. Breaking out is a common pattern. It is not some rare bird that you go bird watch in the wild and get all excited. Oh my goodness, I'm seeing this for the first time in a decade. This happens almost every day somewhere. Something is breaking out. So knowing what specific rules you have on how to play a breakout. One of the things I ask traders to decide for themselves is what time frame are you going to use? Now, if you first do a first break philosophy, where as soon as it breaks out, I get in. Well, it don't matter what time frame you use, because as soon as price breaches the breakout point by whatever rule you have, you're getting it. But if you are going to use some level of confirmation, what is the time frame you are going to use as confirmation?
Mm-hmm.
So for Tim, he might look at what is the intraday time frame that you look for confirmation?
Well, for me, I'm going to go down to probably an hourly chart and then crossed with like a 3-minute chart just to get the detail and the data.
All right. So let's remove your red lines. Let's go to that hourly chart, a common time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Now, draw a red line from the previous pivot high. Now, you look back, a pivot high is just where the wick extends beyond the candlestick. Now, draw that across. All right. So now let's go to today's price action. So if I'm using an hourly chart as confirmation, price breached, but have we had a close above that level?
No.
Have we had a close and then another 10% above the high, the intraday high? So we have neither had a close nor a confirming candlestick above the high. So if you were using hourly confirmation, you haven't got it yet. You haven't got it yet.
No, you don't. So you don't have a confirmed breakout, but we're heading that way here within about 2 hours and 45 minutes. Obviously, the next couple hours are going to confirm that. On a Friday afternoon as well, breaking out, coming into a Monday. I mean, I personally treat that different than it was if it was breaking out on a Tuesday morning, Mark. And for whatever reason, I think just knowing the market.
I think everybody does.
Yeah, of course you do. So I'm not going to get all worked up about just tipping your toe in the water here, just popping your head above the resistance Friday afternoon. I'm not going to get too concerned about it. And I love what Cindy said in the chat. Cynthia Blackwell, great. Not freaking out, working my rules. And if you have rules that are well designed, back tested, and you've traded for a long time.
Freaking out Friday.
Isn't there a movie, Freaky Friday? We can't take, I mean, listen, I'm just saying, we can't take somebody else's name.
That's why we're freaking out. Yeah.
I'm freaking out. All right.
There is not a movie called
How many
Freaking
movies
Out
have
Friday?
similar titles, but they're not the same
Listen,
title?
anything Lindsay Lohan ever starred in is fair game to steal.
Yeah.
I think copyright law. If Lindsay Lohan, so Mean Girls, Freaky Friday,
Yeah.
it's all fair game.
What a fall from grace, that poor kid. I actually heard her on, doing an interview last year, and she was great. She had such charisma on screen when she was a young person. There's no doubt about it. Aye. C'est la vie. There's number 3, and it's the trifecta. Let's move on to the dollar if we can here, Cody.
That's the first time you used the phrase right, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Well, first of all, I've reinterpreted that phrase to make it my own. Dollar down here, Cody. What's going on? I know you're my Forex guy.
The ISM numbers came in. So actually, if you look at, if I were to go to, an intraday when those numbers came out, they came out pretty early on. And so we had the drop initially just from the market, just I think some profit taking from overnight action. But then after those numbers came out is when we got the big move. Now it is coming right back down into previous support levels. So it really just was the ISM data that wasn't as expected. It was supposed to be 57.2, I believe. It came out at 55.5. So just a little bit below expectations on that number. But we did have the good job number. So if I were to go back out to, a daily chart, to me, this looks like it was testing up against resistance. It's now back down. As long as it holds this level or stays above it, I'm going to be neutral leaning to the bullish side.
This is the Forex market in 2019, quite frankly. It's just up and down and up and down and up and down, and just meandering its way up as we work through data. The trends are still up, Mark. I mean, if you took all the candlesticks out, just looked at the moving averages, they're just fading higher, right? And if you take out the day-by-day data points of this, that, and the other thing, the dollar has been stronger than other currencies. Mark, you had a rant pre-market here, or pre-meeting here that I loved. You can't use all the same language when you're describing it, but about how you avoid the news. And you're a better trader when you just don't even plug into all the different news data point. What was you talking about?
I don't know a human being alive who is better at analyzing the news and market reaction than a chart can give you with signals. I've never met anybody. A phrase I use to describe it is the chart is smarter than you. I really believe philosophically that attempting to analyze the news can make you a worse investor.
Yeah.
attempting to analyze the news can make you a worse trader because you're a human being and you will come to conclusions and you will develop theories and you will have opinions.
Or worse, you'll let a broadcaster influence your opinion and they may not even know what they're talking about.
Oh, well, that's just crazy talk.
Yeah.
But finding trading systems and signals that can develop those technical analysis works. Here's the thing. If you believe like I do, I'm going to ask you both this question. So I philosophically true believer in technical analysis and the trading systems I use. True believer. I believe that certain things work and technical analysis as a whole is amazing. If you truly believe that, why do you need anything else?
You don't.
Now, if you don't truly believe, isn't that where we try to get into our opinions and our thoughts and try to come up with all kinds of other excuses on why to do things?
So I want to use a metaphor here because I believe in kind of two different
philosophical Friday.
Because I definitely believe in technical analysis above majority of news, but I also do follow and listen to macroeconomics on the large and not the day-to-day news events that are coming out.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, Germany not doing well in their economy.
All right. So Germany's macroeconomic, I'm going to push back. Germany's macroeconomic news has been freaking terrible for a long time now, right?
It's been ugly.
And what's the market done?
So this also comes to the fact that I trade a lot of currencies. So I listen to macros a lot, but I'm also listening to the macros of the U.S. economy. And our economy's been doing fantastic, and so is the market. So my metaphor would be that's me looking at like a weekly time frame, the larger picture of what's happening. And my technicals would be, day down to, hourly or even minute charts to see what's happening technically with them.
And if you can separate those, Cody, you will be so much smarter than I am. You will be on levels beyond me that I can't even comprehend. I think news makes you a worse trader. I think news makes individuals worse investors because we're flawed creatures as human beings.
Yeah.
But you know what's not flawed? Trends, breakouts, because we got these automated machines on our side. We got self-fulfilling prophecy on our side. We've been on our side.
And we've been saying this for years, by the way. I do probably use more news than you do, Mark, but I don't ever turn on CNBC. I use news like on companies to get context, not necessarily to make trading decisions, right? And we did a podcast last year. I can't remember the episode. It was called Price Action Baby. In the chat, somebody pop in Price Action Baby. And I want you to go back and listen to that podcast because it's exactly what Mark is talking about as well, that if you want to be a great trader, learn how to trade the chart and execute your systems. Now, we can talk about product, whether you should use futures, Forex, options, or stock. We can talk about time frame. We can talk about all kinds of different things. But the most actionable signals you're ever going to get are on the chart. And I got to tell you, that dollar signal tells me to avoid the weekend and come back next week and reassess. And that's where I would be here with Forex markets as we're heading into the weekend. As I look through the rest of the market here, crude oil next here, Cody. Yep. Crude light, deeper pullback, Mark. Now, this one's a fascinating chart to me. And I want to get your, hey, don't trade the news, read the chart kind of thing. When you've got some moving averages pressing and some moving averages holding, you've got the 200 and the 50, but you've got that 9 and the 20 on top. This is now a congestion. I think you affectionately call this the pinch. Is that right?
Pinchish, they're compression patterns is what I call them. And pinch is the kind of cute little clever word I use to describe them. But really, it's just compression, where resistance and support are compressing upon one another. Mm-hmm. Deep pullbacks can pause for the way I trade personally. And we went over this in the Traders Lounge this morning, so I'm not going to rehash it for the many people that were in that one and this. But deeper pullbacks for the way I trade can create some difficulty that require patience. That if you're not willing to buy right at the support bounce, so it comes down to support and you make a philosophical bet that support's going to hold. If you're not willing to do that on deeper pullbacks, sometimes it takes some patience the way I trade to let that price action ebb out. So complex. Now, if you have sideways trading action for several weeks, that's what I would ideally like to see, and then get that clear upside signal, well, then it's time to party.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because you're looking to re-enter the trend from a bullish standpoint here. So
crude and Brent both look the same to me. Gasoline does not. We'll get some analysis in the commodity report this weekend. Natural gas real quick here, Cody.
Go to RB, because I had to pay over $3 a gallon for my gas for the first time in a long time.
It's been hot. There's no doubt about it.
Like $3 a gallon. Here
I've been more bullish on gasoline than I have crude oil in my own personal rankings. There's no doubt. I think it's been a stronger chart. Now you also have that deeper pullback now too on this one, but a little different pattern here. Like crude oil was all the way down to the 200 MA. This one's way above it because it had such an incredible run there between January and April.
You have more strength. Now gasoline has a real hard time like making substantial moves any given direction without going in the same direction as oil, but it has been relatively stronger. There's no doubt.
All right. Keep moving through the markets, metals markets here, Cody. Gold, dollar down, gold up. I mean, that teeter-totter continues here, Mark. It's still kind of an ugly chart, don't you think? Yeah, silver's the same way. Silver is having a huge rally here today, though. It was down bigger a few days ago, up 2.3%, kind of coming back. Palladium holding support. I think you could debate this one a little bit here. Not platinum, but palladium. Platinum actually had a nice candle today. The PA, and I love this metal, sitting here holding on to support here, Mark. What's your read?
Well, we entered the week with it's a lesson. All right. I will go over palladium in depth, and I'm not going to do a full, huge analysis here because I'm going to save that for our pro members. But we talked about palladium having a great potential breakout opportunity, a lesson in confirmation this past week. Because what didn't you confirm? Like if you go to weekly candlesticks, like go to a weekly chart, you have a nice breakout over some consolidation pattern, but you didn't have any confirmation. And so all week it's just been one little bear signal after one little bear signal. Now, what's going to be fascinating to me on palladium is where price closes in conjunction with that 20 weekly moving average. What has happened 5 weeks in a row heading into this week on palladium?
Well, we failed to close above the candlestick after the sell-off. So it's
But what has acted as support? 5 weeks in a row. The 20 weekly moving average.
I see.
Down, support. 5 weeks in a row. Now, my study on moving averages, there is a weakening effect on moving averages. If you keep pounding a moving average, one day I'll come up with the perfect analogy, but they weaken. They don't strengthen. They weaken the more test you have. And so it's like a boxer. He can take a punch. 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 Eventually, that punch is going to knock him down.
It's like a body shot in boxing, and then eventually his hands drop, and then the whole thing comes down.
Exactly.
And the zombies at Winterfell eventually breaking through the firewall. Either one, I like it.
Whatever it may be. But so if you eventually break here, you got some room to the downside, don't you?
Yeah, I think you do if it does break down. You're going to get movement here one way or the other. Bitcoin, last one, and then we got a few companies I want to talk about just last minute here. BTC, Mark, I'm telling you, it's been resilient. It's been strong. It still has some congestion above it.
Go back to that weekly chart. Let's talk reversal patterns here. I don't care if it's Bitcoin or whatever. Look how those short-term moving averages, once you cleared that 20 weekly, a huge indicator for me, you clear that 20 weekly, what's price done ever since? That 20 weekly is a huge reversal signal for me. Close, confirmation. What did price do? And why did price explode? Because you had this huge moving average pocket. Now, a moving average pocket is when you basically have a lot of space between moving averages. So you don't have one right on top of one another. And you notice what is the turquoise line? Which moving average is that?
Falling. Cody, these are your MAs. That's got to be the falling 200.
Oh, wow. My mic was muted. I was trying to figure
right.
out what you could hear me. This is the 50.
50.
All right. So comes up to the 50, acts as resistance, just like Goldman Sachs did, just like Micron did. But what did price do? So first test, pound, it holds. But then that second test, hey, not very weak. That boxer hit the ground really quick, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Lots of room upside. This has been a textbook reversal pattern with strength, producing another signal with where's the next resistance area, my friends?
That's right.
Like some room to the upside. I mean, don't call Bitcoin dead because that's a classic reversal pattern with lots of upside. And Bitcoin, technical, I mean, this is a technical analysis machine.
Correct. And by the way, I don't know anybody who really thought it was completely dead. It's complex. There's no doubt about it. It was a bubble that crashed and popped, but now here we are coming all the way back around. I think people who basically think Bitcoin was dead probably just don't understand the tech and probably don't want to trade it themselves, which is fine. I think that's a very acceptable position. I don't have any problem if somebody says that. I haven't taken or initiated a new trade on Bitcoin this entire year. So
listen, when I started the lounge, I was so critical of Bitcoin because we were starting the Bitcoin. We were in the midst of the Bitcoin hysteria. It was CNN. I was like, this is freaking crazy. Mm-hmm. This is just pure euphoria. This is a great pattern.
It's a great looking chart. I'm telling you, cryptos are grabbing my attention.
I don't care what it is. That's a great pattern.
Well, my crew here, halftime crew, you guys know it. We're bringing it up every day, more often now, because it is a chart. And if you just trade what you see, Mark, the chart is starting to look a lot better. And volume, it was the blog today. They are the exclamation points in a chart. Ding, 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 ding. 5 weeks in a row, increase in volume as it's been popping its head right there. Interesting.
That's a beautiful chart.
I agree.
If I didn't know the ticker symbol and you showed that to me, I'd be like,
I like it. Couple ones here to finish up real quick, Cody. SBGI, Sinclair Broadcasting Group bought 21 regional sports companies from Disney. SBGI is up on the news today, and Disney's down. Usually when you acquire something, give me a quick peek at Disney. Not a good candle on either one. Earnings coming up, but I thought it was interesting news to say the least. Disney's pullback is going to be hotly debated, I'm sure. I like the retracement. I think that it's setting up for something interesting. Both of them have earnings coming up. News there. Tesla.
Go back to Disney because this is a huge list. Pull up weekly charts. Once again, trade like Mark does, or at least think how I do in this standpoint. If I wait for pullbacks to weekly moving average and price gets, I don't care what term you use, overextended, it's ran too far, like whatever term, when you pull back to those weekly moving averages, it takes a while to get back there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When price runs that crazy.
Yeah.
When price runs that crazy. But, traders are looking for that opportunity. Do you think when it pulls back to those weekly moving averages, what would your philosophical bet be? That they hold or that they don't?
When it pulls back, they're going to hold.
Exactly. That's what my bet is going to be. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is on that one. I'll bet that they hold when Disney pulls back to those weekly moving averages. Yeah, great stock, pull back, opportunity. Once again, recognize pattern. That's recognition, recognizing our opportunity. Now come into your specific rules on how you want to take advantage of that opportunity.
Back to the daily. Real quick, I got a little rant here on your entire thought here. I love it. I saw something in a Facebook post today from somebody who trades options, and he was complaining because he went long call on Disney on Monday. Okay, because the reason he went long call on Disney on Monday is because he went to Avengers and they made 1.2 billion worldwide, and he thought, well, they're going to make a lot of money.
What was I saying about human beings' ability to analyze the news and then conceptually apply that to the market?
Sure.
Don't do it.
So
how about having patience and realizing that it was a high base breakout and it's probably going to have a pullback in the future? Oh, wait, what's happening now? Now
people
is
who treat trading like gambling don't think like that, though, guys. They
No.
just chase the money around the market, eventually lose their money, and then they're out of the market. People who
And then
learn
they
how
say
to trade.
they say trading doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Well, look, I got in, didn't work, so it must not work.
I remember that I had this professor. I used to play poker for a living. That's what I did for many, many, many years. I had this professor once who thought he was smarter than me. Now, he might have been smarter than me, but I had played 100,000 hands of poker. So whether he was smarter than me, really, I'd been around and played a lot of hands, developed rules, developed discipline. Well, he went and tried to play poker for a living.
Mhm.
You know, I was like, well, I'm going to do that too, because if Mark can, well, I'm 10 times smarter than him. He might have been. He might have been. I'm 10 times smarter than him.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then he went in and he didn't make money because guess what? Things are hard at first. You don't learn all of the rules. You don't have all of the discipline. You don't have all of the experience. And so he then said, well, it's just all luck. He's just lucky. You know?
Oh, no.
Well,
You know,
no, I just had experience and developed rules and then the discipline to follow through those rules.
it's
That's
funny
right.
that
Not really about intelligence. It's the other intangibles that make us successful, whatever they are, you know, especially with trading and investing.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
not your
I was
intelligence.
actually I was having a conversation with my wife yesterday. Well, conversation, more of a rant on my part because someone had made a comment on Facebook that trading is all gambling and people are getting lucky, and that just set me off on a little rant because I was like, you can't be playing hold'em and you get the the turn and you're like, I didn't like that as much as I did. Let me take 90% of my position off.
And
Yeah.
Cody, you just summarized why I will never go back to poker or sports betting. Because
Yeah.
exactly what you just said, young man, breaking out wisdom on a Friday at the end of the show, Cody from Hawaii, because you have the ability to hedge. You have the ability to say, I place a bet $1,000 on a Cowboys game, Cody, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh, my analysis is off. What am I? Can I do anything with that $1,000?
Nope.
Well, and the other thing about the gambling comment, Cody, a lot of people who don't just understand, if people don't have a guaranteed return, they think it's gambling, right? Think about that. If they don't have a guaranteed
anything in life,
well, if they don't get the guaranteed 1.2% from their savings account, they think it's gambling. There's a much bigger difference between gambling as a bad gambler and trading with probability. Now, you will have losses and you will have distribution and you will have risk. For a lot of consumers who don't really understand money or numbers or the math behind that, they might think, well, that's just gambling. You lost money. You put money in the market trying to make money and lost money. You got to leave them behind you because they're not going to impact your future. I can tell you that, kid.
Did someone just tell me that Tesla issued more shares?
Bring up Tesla, if you will.
oh my God.
Did they
Is it
really issue more shares? Oh my goodness, they really are as terrible as I've been making them out to be forever.
Tesla, Elon Musk.
Elon is like, please don't stop looking at me. Keep me in the media, guys. Pay attention to me.
Are
please.
they so broke that because when a company has to issue more shares, that's because they ran out of other options. Is that true?
They're issuing more shares because they think there's going to be demand for the shares, Mark. Elon Musk, just yesterday in a comment to CNBC, I think it was CNBC, might have been a different news outlet, he thinks Tesla has a $500 billion market cap in front of it.
All right. So when a company issues more shares, let's do a stock 101 lesson. What does that do to the value of all existing shares?
It dilutes them. It should. You have more supply on the market right now. You have, and by the way, shares have been hard to short for a long time. What do you think short sellers are going to do now that there are more shares on the market? If that's news, I have not seen that headline. I got to go dig into that.
I got to dig in. I got to make sure that that's accurate.
That would be fascinating.
6 hours ago, Tesla shares up after carmaker raises size of stock and bond offering.
Wow.
Tesla files for capital.
I'm just going to ask you a simple question.
Yes, it looks like it is.
What is Apple doing? Are they issuing more shares or are they buying back their shares?
They're buying shares.
What is Boeing doing? Is Boeing
$1
issuing more shares or are they buying back their shares?
That's right.
Yep.
Yep. That's
I'm
right.
going to leave you with that. I will never invest in a company that offers more shares because there is something wrong. That is for me a huge red flag. Now there's been 40,000 red flags on Tesla over the last just one gigantic red flag after another.
Well, the trend and the pattern and the old support, new resistance developing, but it is up 4.8% on the news. The company is currently a $48 billion company. A $500 billion market cap would mean it would have to 10x here, Mark. That'd be $2,500 a share per Tesla share. I don't know if we're seeing that in our future here.
No. Elon's plan is I'm going to keep issuing because he was getting high last night.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, if I issued 500 billion shares and Tesla was $1, we'd be a $500 billion company.
Right.
The secret is just issue more shares. Because your market cap does technically go up, because if price stays the same and you issue more shares, then your market cap goes up.
That's right.
So I just issue more and more shares, our market cap will keep going. That guy is delusionally freaking crazy.
He's Elon. There's a great GIF on, and you can find it everywhere, where he's just belly laughing and he's just rolling around. It's fantastic. Cody, you'll have to put in Elon Musk laughing and find one for a Twitter.
Listen,
two last
the
ones.
line between genius and insanity is very thin.
Two last ones, I promise here. BZUN. Guys, if you are a pro member of Tackle Trading, type in pro member in the chat, and you already know what I'm going to say here. What a beautiful breakout, approaching a first target up here at 50. Now, Mark, 100 shares at 45 on the trigger here, whatever the exact decimal was on that trigger. I'd have to go look at the stock report. Now up this week, probably would have made about $300. That pays for 3 months of that pro membership at Tackle Trading.
You know what's fun, and you know what's funny is it's forming another trading signal.
Yeah, but yeah, that's right. That's right. And then
that looks a lot like American Express.
That is from last week's stock report, right? Pretty amazing chart.
And pull up American Express from 2 weeks ago on the options report.
Mm-hmm.
Notice you have the breakout, high base, and then breakout again. That's what BZUN is looking like it's doing. Like just eliminate today's candle, breakout, move up, trade sideways before another breakout. That looks like what it's setting up to do, which AXP. A
bearish one, AU.
Gold.
Because there's always bull and bear, and this thing broke below that support point, actually fading lower. Now we're hitting our first target in the first week of trade here, Mark. Is this the kind of situation on a Friday where you've got a little green candle and the dollar is now down, where you might take profit at your first target?
Yeah, I have. Like, if you pull up the weekly chart, you got the 200 weekly like right underneath. So like how much, I always am analyzing how much reward do I have in a trade before the next area where support might form. Mm-hmm. And the closer it gets to that, the more apt I am just to call her good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so like, I mean, so what? It's going to come down to the 200 weekly. Are you going to be so greedy to say, well, I think the 200 weekly is going to break too? You know, well, that's not trading. That's wishing.
No, there are times to let those profits run, times to roll a stop, and times just take it off. And you got to execute your system depending on how you've designed it. Trade your plan. There's no doubt about it. And guys, I got to go. I've got to go and get ready for our scouting report meeting. I'm going to tell you, I've got so much excitement for this weekend's reports. Number one, there's all kinds of opportunities in the market. Number two, the sectors are showing as bullish and bearish across different areas. And commodities and Forex are very important. Cody, I'll see you there. Mark, great job today. Tackle Trading's halftime report. If you guys are not a pro member, the scouting reports are our flagship product. There's no doubt about it. And there's no better time to start a trial than right now, so you can get those tomorrow. Mark, how do people do that?
You can go to tackletrading.com and go to the store and go to the Join Pro, where you can get a 15-day trial. Or you can email me at team@tackletrading and I'll set you up.
And if you are a pro member, thank you as always. You can email us if you have any request or anything feedback wise as well. And great to see you in our halftime report. We'll see you back here on Monday. Reports will be out tomorrow afternoon. Get in the game, guys. Learn, trade, connect, succeed. TackleTrading.com.